Bassem, obviously you left Egypt in 2014 after a court hit you with a $10 million fine over your show Al-Barnamij, which had already been shut down for making fun of the army and Sisi. You already had a huge name, not just in Egypt, across the Arab world. And then you moved to LA, where you're known as, the Jon Stewart of the Middle East, I think. I'm not sure how you feel about that title yourself. Before, of course, blowing up with those interviews post October the 7th, where I think many people felt that you were speaking for them. Why do you think your voice and your humor have translated across the world at this time?
I mean, I think it says more about the failure of the politicians and the media more than like how successful the comedians are. I mean, we're clowns. We shouldn't be talking about politics. I mean, we should, but even that, I mean, we shouldn't be taken seriously. And the fact that like a clown's word resonates, it's a reflection of how people are frustrated of the other supposedly regular channel of the news and of the politics. So they gravitate to comedians not because we are the philosophers of our time or because like I don't know, like all of that kind of romanticizing of comedy. At the end of the day, we're just cracking jokes, but it's just like the frustration of how the media and politicians have failed the people.
Well, at different points in history, comedians have played quite important parts in challenging power. I can think, for example, of Charlie Chaplin in The Great Dictator, which is a film in which, of course, Charlie Chaplin is observing the rise of Hitler, and no one's allowed to mock the Führer. So what does he do? He creates, and this is for those who haven't seen it, he creates a character who isn't Hitler, but kind of is Hitler, and mocks him throughout the film, right? And if you look at Germany in that time, this is one of the only ways that you can actually mock power is through comedy because there's no other avenues available. Is that where we're at?
Well, I think it's an outlet. Again, I mean, because if you don't see things happening in real time, happening on the floor, on the ground, people gravitate to jokes. And the jokes doesn't change anything. It's a release. So, when they say like humor is medicine or comedy is medicine, it's not medicine. It's painkillers. It's very temporary. It gives like an illusion of relief. But it's interesting what you say about the Greek dictator and Charlie Chaplin, because a lot of people don't know that at that time in Hollywood, there was a Nazi ambassador inside Hollywood that was there to make sure there was like a Nazi attaché or some sort. And they would actually go in and interfere with anything that is anti-Nazi. They actually like, they would go in and see the scripts, and one of those movies were The Great Dictator. So, and at that time, that was Charlie Chaplin. This is how Charlie Chaplin created something called United Artists. He was the one who created it, and he had a partner, and the Nazi attaché or representative in Hollywood tried to actually pressure Charlie Chaplin not to do the show, and he said like, it's not about Hitler, it's not about that, and I kind of like played along until the movie was out. So it's interesting that you have till today you have people, but this time they are like pro-Israel, pro-Zionist, and they are inside Hollywood or actually producing, and they would block things that are anti-Israel. It's very interesting how time changed.
Isn't it also because there's something about comedy in which you can say the unsayable? And so I'm thinking of, for example, Dave Chappelle and the comments he's made on trans rights, which you cannot say in a public debate, unsayable. Timothy Chalamet's gag about Hamas, or Jimmy Carr and his hilarious jokes about pedophilia. Surely there's something about the red lines that we are not allowed to say, not allowed to think, that comedians transgress, that also expand the space of freedom of thought, freedom of speech. What have you learned as a comedian about those red lines when it comes to Israel and Palestine?
When you are faced with the same accusation over and over again, like being anti-Semitism and Jew hater and whatever, the only way actually around it is actually like to make fun of that. Because there will be like a limited number of times when you tell people, no, that is not true. That is not true. That's not anti-Semitism. But it's certain, okay, you know what? Let's make fun of that. So I think it's more of a comedy. Also is like a kind of an outlet for frustration sometimes. And all of the examples that you said, it's I mean, there comedians will tell you you can talk about anything you want as long as it's funny. I think this is
Is that true?
yeah, as long as it's funny, you can talk about anything you want. Because if I made you laugh, that means that actually I made it funny. So because they give you a joke that's very offensive, doesn't make you funny. It doesn't make you laugh, so that's not funny. But also the problem with comedy that's very subjective. I think comedy is the most controversial, subjective topic because people somehow will have a sense what is good acting, what is good singing. There's almost like a universal standards for these things. Comedy is very variable. The taste in comedy is extremely valuable. Some people would actually consider it disrespectful or offensive or blasphemous.
Right.
And even people who don't label comedy with these words will still not laugh or not find it funny. Or it's like, I don't have any problem with these things, but like that is not funny. And you can also, it's not just like the comedy, it's everything around comedy is very variable. So I can go on a comedy club, 2 shows back to back, same room, same material, and the outcome is completely different. And sometimes you're just going to have like a different kind of demography or different kind of places. Or jokes can work in a city, not like country, like a city, and the neighboring city will not work. So it's very variable.
But is that partly because what a society or an audience in any given location finds funny tells us maybe something about that culture or subculture? So let me give you this example. In December 2023, Guy Hockman, an Israeli soldier and comedian with a large following, posted a video of himself stripping down to his underwear on a beach in Gaza, screaming, "Everything is ours." Hilarious, I know. In the same month, he mocked Palestinian deaths as part of a stand-up routine. He said, and I quote, "We don't need to publish their names. What do I care what the terrorist's name is? As far as I'm concerned, it should be Mohammed 1, Mohammed 2, Mohammed 3, until you get to 100,000 and we're done." Are we learning something about Israel through what Israelis find comical?
No, I mean, Zionists and Israelis are far from being funny. They're just rude. And they are also, like, comedy needs to be a little bit of a heart, even if you do something that's offensive. That's not funny. I mean, maybe people who find that funny are people who are Zionists, but I think, seeing what they do to humans, I don't think that could be even a standard to consider.
I watch quite a lot of these for my sins, TikTok videos that they make. And I sort of think to myself, how is it possible that half the world watches these in absolute horror and consternation? And that within this small society, that other people find them funny. How does that happen?
Well, it's by design. It is by design. It is actually created so you hate them. It is actually. I talked to a professor, a British professor, about this. I said, first of all, any army in the world, no matter how genocidal it is, has discipline. Any army in the world has discipline, right? Certain disciplines, certain orders, certain hierarchy. This is exactly how you run an army, right? So all of these TikTok videos of Israeli soldiers wearing lingerie and desecrating Palestinian homes will not be allowed if the army leaders didn't allow this to happen. Right? Because it takes only 1 or 2 videos and then just no more TikTok videos for the army soldiers, right? That is any army in the world. Like if the French army, the American army or whatever, and they say, and their soldiers started to put out videos like these, it will be, okay, like for example, the pictures of Abu Ghraib, it was leaked. Mm-hmm. These pictures were leaked. It was not like people were, and people who put that picture out were penalized, right? So it is by design that it has led people, and they told us, like, it is actually by design because this is the way that they will drive people insane and make people hate Israelis, and then and then some of the people who hate them will extend that hate to Jewish people. And then a lot of people say, like, oh, like, the IDF, Israel, all of the Jews, right? And then they will use that kind of hate, like, see, they hate us. Anti-Semitism, So it is a kind of it is by design. They do that in order to troll you. Even look at their accounts online. They write stuff that is designed to get a reaction out of you, to get that kind of hate. So it is a very, 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 very evil genius level. So you will have all of these people like attacking us, like, see, anti-Semitism, they hate us, we need to defend ourselves. If you don't help us, they're gonna all kill us, right? But they are the one who's kind of like poking you and kind of getting you out of reaction, the same way that they would bomb you, and then when you retaliate, they want to kill us. It's the same thing.